Along with this video, you received a PDF that contains the drawing for your painting, and this is it. This is our wolf. You can have this enlarged if you like at your copy shop and have it enlarged to a 12 by 16 or whatever size you'd like to paint your wolf in. This is a 12 by 16. So this is on ordinary paper. Now what I like to do, because this is heavy paper, before I transfer it to my velour, I make a tracing paper copy. So I've put tracing paper over my wolf and I have copied the lines. So I'm going to use that to transfer to my velour paper. So I want to tape that down precisely where I want it to be. I'm going to use my masking tape for that and put tape on the edges so it won't move around. Then I'm going to put my copy paper underneath. Now, when I go to transfer this, I'm going to use my 9B pencil, make sure it's very sharp, but I want to press only hard enough to get the lines to transfer through, and then I can go over them. If I press too hard, I'm going to dent the velour paper, which is very delicate, and you don't want to do that because then the pastel doesn't go into those little dents and it just makes a mess. Also, I would like to remind you ladies to remove any bracelets or watches when you're painting because those will dent your paper as well. So I'm going to start up here on an ear and just go over the lines. Some decorative artists like to use a stylus, but a stylus really is too hard for this and makes too deep a mark into the paper, destroying the velour. So we want to go just hard enough to make a mark. Now you want to check, so with one side still taped down, lift up your paper to see, and you see my ear? I can see that my ear has transferred. So we want to go around and do the whole wolf that way until we have successfully transferred it to our paper. And then we'll go on to the next step. We finished transferring our drawing. So the next thing we're going to do is using our 9B graphite pencil and our white charcoal pencil. We're going to refine our drawing and reinforce our transferring lines. This is a very important step in the process. And some people neglect this step. They don't think it's necessary. I do. The more time we spend drawing, the better we get at it. And this also helps us to become more familiar with our animal, which also helps us when we paint. The more we know about our subject, the better. So I'm going to use my 9B graphite, and I'm just going to spend the time redrawing my wolf. This is going to serve as a map or plan for what's to come later on. Now I'm going to use the white graphite pencil to put in a few of the white hairs that are inside the ear, just a few, because the white charcoal pencil cannot be easily covered up, which is the reason we use it, because these marks are going to stay here after we put on layers of pastel, so we'll know where the white hairs are going to go. I'm going to put a few on the edge of his ear. Just a few, not every one. You do, when you add these, like I said, they're not going to go away. So make sure that you put them where you want them. So once they're down, they're down. Now the graphite's a little different. We're going to cover it up, but the white charcoal pencil stays put. So I'm just going to work around my wolf. Let's put a few hairs. Ideally, I would spend quite a bit of time doing this. Just enjoy the process of drawing. Well, let's put in his eye. When we do the eyes, generally we want to draw them a little bit bigger than they actually are on whatever reference you're using, because it just makes for a better picture, excuse me. We don't want them abnormally large. I'm going to draw in the eyeball. I'm going to put a sketch in the, about where the pupil's going to go. Lower lid. Now I'm going to take my white charcoal pencil. I'm going to put a highlight. There's one here. There's one on the lower lid. And I'm going to use it to place the highlight in the eye. It just marks it and saves it for later. The eyes are so important. They truly are the windows to the soul. The hair is going all kinds of different directions around the eyes. It's important to be aware of that. We don't want to draw in every hair with the pencil, but we want to become very familiar with the wolf. So let's go on over and do this other eye. I'm going to draw it again a little bit bigger. And let's put in the pupil. Now let's use the white charcoal pencil. A little bit of the white of the eye shows here. It does over on this side as well, so we're going to put that in. And then highlight on the lower lid. And I'm going to mark the light in the eye. See, even now it begins to take on life as we do these little things. Taking my time. I'm noticing all the things about this wolf. Let's work down here and do the nose. Now when you do this, when you take the time to draw your subject accurately, there's something called muscle memory. It's not that we have memory inside our muscles, but by doing this, it trains our brain so that when we go to add other colors, because we have drawn this before, we remember more about placement and different things about this wolf. This works with any subject. I think that's so interesting. So I'm just going to place, I'm just drawing this. We're going to come back in the next stage and give it a lot more detail. For now, I'm just kind of putting it in. His face is laying on the ground, so we don't see so much there. And this area is going to be in shadow. I'm just going to put that in. So don't skip this step. It's a very important step. So I'm going to continue to work around the wolf, drawing him and taking notice of how his fur grows, the different colors that are in his coat. And when I come back, I will have finished, and we'll move on to the next step. My drawing is all finished, and now it's time to move on to the next stage. I'm going to be adding more darks with my 6B charcoal pencil. I like the ones made by General. So I'm going to add some darker areas so that I can see them after I put on several layers of pastel. I'm going to add a few darks, just a bit, in the ears. I kind of use the pencil on its side. So I want to put some charcoal here. And this will show through all those subsequent layers of pastel that we're going to add. Put some here where the little hairs are. It gets really dark in here. Some dark behind the ear. I'm also going to use the charcoal to work around his eye. And draw around his eye carefully. Make sure we get an accurate shape. Darken up the pupil, feathering it. Let's move over to his other ear. Again, I'm using the side of the pencil. Let's move on to his other eye. Let's outline this carefully. Feather out this pupil. A few hairs up here on the forehead. Let's work down to his nose. Just gonna kind of draw in his nose. His nose is mostly in shadow. He has a nostril over here and another on this side. And we're just going to roughly add a little shadow, and we'll give it more detail later. There's shadow up under his edge of his face. I want to get that in so it's not covered up when we start adding color. I'm going to let you watch while I finish drawing in some of the dark detail on the wolf. He's laying his head down on these outstretched paws, which is quite a nice pose, I think. He's got black nails. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. And we'll come back and do more on those later. And I think that's about it for this stage. When we come back, we're going to start adding some color.